Thank you, everybody, for joining our discussion today. I'm David Leibowitz. I'll be your moderator, and I have a background in helping B2C and B2B companies solving challenges related to the digital journeys. Today, I'm joined by Preston Harris, who is also our Chief Technology Officer of Analytics. And looking at this, we're also joined by a pretty good crowd of listeners. So please, I will try to make this interactive, so feel free to contribute any questions you may have during the dialogue. You should see that in the webinar chat box. I'll do my best to pepper them into the dialogue. So with that, Preston, would like to introduce yourself, and don't forget, you did promise to be funny.
Oh, I'm going to try to be a little funny. So, hi, I'm Preston Harris. I work here on this over at HCL Software with a variety of products. I started out maybe 9 or 10 years ago in this customer experience analytics type of role. So I started out as a consultant, went into become a solutions architect, dabbled in product management for a few years, and here I am.
Excellent. Excellent. Would you like to start with your funny story?
Yeah, let me see what I can think of. There's a variety out there. So this one time, I was asked to test in production from a customer, right? And what ended up happening is I ordered an expensive exercise treadmill. And what we were trying to do is find, they were having problems in their checkout flow. So they provided me with some developer or test credit card information. They said, oh, go ahead, go ahead and do your testing out there. And then we can also do the analytics on the inside. So we were driving our sessions being recorded by our product, using this simple test credit card. So the fact that I could use the test credit cards and that I was actually able to make it through the checkout funnel and into a confirmation page was not the funny part. The funny part is that I ended up with a $2,000 item. I got shipping notification, thought that was kind of funny, couldn't stop it in time. And that ended up getting delivered to my house for free. So, once we worked with the customer, we dove in, we were analyzing how this could happen. It turns out that dozens of people, whether the information was leaked or if it was insiders, I'm not sure, but many dozens of people were exploiting this to score thousands of dollars in free gear from their website.
Wow.
This simple test account, was supposed to be only for developers. It ended up in production, considerable losses. Were charged to the company. The good news is, once we found this, they were able to roll out a fix very quickly. But who knows how much it would have cost if this had remained undetected for many weeks or months.
It's funny because number one, I had a similar experience during my technical days when I was doing QA testing, and I was actually doing the QA environment, doing the dummy credit card information, and I had 7 pairs of shoes show up on my door at different times. So maybe there's a little bit of a pattern in the athletic wear industry. And so I guess that, from a Google Analytics perspective, everything looked great because they saw their revenues. They just didn't have the visibility of what was an abnormal thing happening in the background.
Yeah, so this, while it cost them a lot of money, overall, in the grand scheme of things, it was not a large enough anomaly to just have it pop out in their face. It's not like they were watching their revenue stream and then this made it out there and their revenue dropped 20%. But still, when you're talking multi-$1,000 items and dozens of them going out the door, it's a decent sized problem.
So while we're still on the topic of athletic wear, did you have another retail example that was global?
Actually, interestingly enough, we're back to running shoes. So I once had a customer that dealt retail and sports items with customers all around the globe, so really big company. And they were moving over to a new single page architecture, basically for their entire checkout process. And it meant that a lot of processing power that was normally handled in the back end was moved to the front end. So just imagine error checking and many other things. A lot of that's being handled there. And certain tools might be able to get a visibility in, but there's a lot of tools that were relying for the back end that would not monitor something on the front. So as it turns out, Some countries, I believe, maybe they were in, South America, Latin America, they have really long email addresses. And while we were trying to work on other issues, we actually stumbled on the fact that approximately 7 to 8 customers per day at around $150 a transaction were failing to check out even with 100% intent to purchase. None of their tools could see this because the client-side script was failing to notify the user their address was too long. So imagine you're filling out a form, you've got everything perfect, it lets you type in this 40 or 50 character long address, you press submit, and it simply says you're unable to check out. It doesn't say, it doesn't highlight, there was nothing there to notify the user or other tools that the customer worked with that there was actually a problem. And this is another one where, hey, it's only 7 to 8 customers a day, but you're selling 10,000 shoes and shirts and hats, or per day, or even more. It depends on promotions and what's going on. So this code had been there for a few months, which meant around I'd say $100,000 had been lost. And so if this had sat there, it could have cost substantially more. But they were able to, after we identified the problem and showed it to their teams, they were able to put a fix in within 48 hours. And then all of those customers were able, they were able to check out. So that could have potentially been many hundreds of thousands over time left unnoticed.
Yeah, and I can see where, 7 to 8 orders a day, not a big deal. But imagine the physical world. 7 to 8 people walked up and said, "I'd like to pay," and you say, "Sorry, I have an error," and just let them walk out the door.
Yeah,
it's a bad brand experience. Number one. Number two, even though it may be only 7 or 8, it shouldn't be one user that has that problem. But what's the next problem that could have been 5,000 users, 10,000 users? If you don't have the right ability, it seems like, to get the insight, that richer insight of what's going on for what could be 7 users, why would you miss something that could be a much bigger impact to the business?
Yes, exactly. I mean, so often other tools, they only sample data, or they discard parts that they feel they don't need. Some even kind of make the experience up, and they simulate what's happening on the screen. What I like about our tools, they have the ability to deep dive into all of the user data, all of the interactions, all of the time. This allows us to have a deeper understanding of the true customer experience across the board. So this allows us to provide a very rich and meaningful insight around what your customers are experiencing each and every day. So I don't know if that's helpful there, but
that makes sense. I always tell people, it used to be the days when people wanted more data. Now they tend to say, "I got so much data, I don't know what to do with it." And I kind of challenge them back and say, you actually need more data. You just don't have the right data right now that's current, based upon the intent of the customer and what's going on right now and the problem you have to solve right now, versus old, 6-month, 12-month-old data. So that's a good example where sampling data, it sounds like what you're telling me is you could miss things, even if it's 7 users or 5,000 users that are struggling. So since all of us are very focused on helping customers be more profitable, generate revenue, any good examples of some big dollar misses that companies have had?
Let's see. Yes, we were once working with a major rental car company, and they were struggling again with a new version of their website. So this gets deployed, and it's out there for a few months, and they noticed their bookings had dropped off quite dramatically. So they called us in to see what we could do. We discovered after a few weeks here working on a variety of different issues, we found a major problem that on the home page, a user was able to quickly specify a pickup and drop off location. So let's say you want to pick up in Atlanta, you're going to do a rental car one way to Orlando, and this customer had plenty of inventory, let's say at the Atlanta airport, right? But they were actually told that there was no inventory. And so their users were going back and trying again, making sure they were typing in things right, and trying alternate drop-off or pickup locations nearby. And so you can imagine that's a significant problem. It's easily millions of dollars worth of problem. So there's no error showed on the screen. It looks completely legitimate. Their tools couldn't detect anything. But in the end, when we found what the problem was on the client side, and we actually exposed that to them, it was estimated that it could have cost $17 million from the initial date that the application was rolled out.
Wow.
So you can see that was, I think that's one of the bigger ones that I was involved in. And not only was revenue lost, but the brand was damaged because the customers, they don't realize it's a technical problem. So imagine you're sitting there trying to book at a major rental car company, whichever one, and you're trying over and over again, and it's just telling you no inventory, no inventory, no inventory. You're like, well, I can't use this company, right? Then you might have a few call in, but myself, if that happened to me, I'll just jump to another brand. And so, that damage that was done there is much more than just the actual revenue loss due to the current bookings, but your potential future revenue as well.
So, and that's actually a great point, because when someone has a struggle, that's an impact to the brand experience, right? And the broader implications beyond just that one technical issue that had a bad brand experience.
Yeah, so their existing analytics solutions were very basic. As we talked about earlier, sampling data, client-side issues, and a lot of tools, you have to manually configure some of these things so that it won't sample or so that it can detect that. And we have a lot of things that can help us automatically find these types of issues and expose them very easily to the business.
Excellent. And I know a lot of times in this space, people have struggles, and maybe they get so frustrated, so upset, they actually invest their time to call the call center. Any examples there that you've experienced?
Oh, definitely. So once you get past reacting to problems like using search and replay, it's a good time to move into something proactive. So typically, clients will have tools that they just replay a session, perform these basic analytics. However, the business still struggles identifying the challenging problems and surfacing a way to actually fix the problems. That's another power of our tool. It's not just finding the problems. We're going to show you how to fix a lot of these problems too. The typical tools are looking for error messages, but they really do not have a very robust set of advanced struggle analytics that we do. For example, the call center case. Identify how much an average call to the call center costs you. So maybe that's $20. And if users on your application for a while, they're struggling to purchase, they fail to convert, they dial in your call center, well, we can easily track this. If this happens to, let's say, 500 people a day, $20 each, 30 days, you're talking, approximately $300,000. If this type of customer struggles with you this much in the month, you can imagine how much this would cost in a year. We can also help you reach out to those that did not even call to proactively inform them that the problem has been fixed, so we can help you protect your brand. Another example, imagine there's an invalid promotional code that's sent out to your customer base, and it causes the call center to receive an overwhelming number of calls. We can quickly identify that type of problem. We alert the product team to the issue, and they can actually develop a script for the call center to provide damage control.
Yeah, and as a consumer, I'm sure you never want to have problems, but when I get those very honest emails saying, hey, sorry, we sent out the wrong information, I've corrected it, I know you experienced this problem, that actually feels like they responded, even though I didn't call the call center or I didn't take an action. Takes a bad situation and makes it actually in a decent reputation that you begin to form about that brand. That's good. Actually, we had quite a few questions coming in here, and I'm trying to sift through them, but this is a good one. What about fraud activity? Is there a scenario there where all this data helps you identify some fraudulent activities?
Absolutely. Let me think back on something. So I was working with a major telco company, and they were struggling to identify problems in their checkout flow. And after enabling our behavioral analytics solution, we discovered some very strange behavior around reward redemption.
I can't imagine any problems in telco checkout. I couldn't imagine that, right?
We've seen quite a bit of that, yes, across the brands and countries. So, after diving in, we found that some users were redeeming millions of points, and they had some sort of way of doing this where they could back in and maybe purchase something and then call in and get a refund. There was little shenanigans going on there, but they were able to put together millions of points, and then they were able to redeem those. What they were doing in the end was purchasing with these points, so they're not spending any money really, and they're getting hundreds or even thousands of iPhones delivered to them. And they were being very smart. They were bouncing them through a U.S. courier, sending them to a foreign country, and the different courier points, so the addresses were changing, and I believe you could even take points and transfer them, so the usernames were changing. So they were very smart on the ways that they were coming up with to basically take these millions of points, combine them, and go sort of undetected. So they're flying under the radar, sending out thousands of these phones. So basically, yeah, they're converting the points and either converting them to dollars to purchase phones or just purchasing the phones with points. But regardless, you can imagine what thousands of iPhones cost. So the solutions that simply report on the data, perform that replay we were talking about, it's hard for them to catch a scenario like this. But I'd like to always go back to the point that our approach to monitoring all of this customer data and all of the user interactions allows us to alert the business to a complex problem such as this.
Yeah, you just don't know what you don't know, basically. So
yep,
finding that right data and surfacing those issues, like you're saying, lots of good sales, and then not realizing what shenanigans may be going in the back end on a broken business process, but then finding those anomalies so that we can help see across both the brand experience across all the channels, but also the business process behind it. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I gotta imagine if companies were having, or listeners today, some of these similar challenges or tangential ones, how would you see them proceed in their company to inform their leadership?
Well, HCL has uniquely positioned Discover as the product that can provide the solutions to these problems, and many more. Right? This is just a handful of ones we're going over here. These stories, there's hundreds of them. We've surrounded our product with a team of behavioral analytics experts that can help you drive business outcomes. So I think simply reaching out to us by email or on LinkedIn, our team can help provide the answers you're looking for.
Excellent. So I got a couple more questions that have been coming in. So I've seen, everyone runs Google Analytics or some version of that. So what they're hearing is that behavioral analytics runs in conjunction with like a Google Analytics. So first of all, probably want to confirm that. But number two, what type of skills does a company need to have to run a solution like this?
Well, I'd say number one, keep it simple. We've been working towards making this product much easier to deploy. When this product started, you'd have to stand up a bunch of physical servers and install software and have a part-time administrator to administrate everything. Well, you could stand up on-prem. We've also moved forward like with containerized solutions and such, and we just handle that for you. So that's like our cloud native kind of SaaS solution. So our solution really only takes a single JavaScript with a little configuration to get it working. Your existing business level person, so a business analyst that would use from Google Analytics, they can actually work with us to grow their experience and learn how to use a tool like this. So they'll be able to spend less time guessing and have prioritized actions for the business, for the IT team, for marketing, so they can act on this business impact.
Excellent. And it's a good, when I'm working with business analysts, it's a good resume builder for them too, because it helps them understand the business more wholly and holistically, and less about guessing why something happened, because now you have more of that big data coming in that actually shows why you saw something Google Analytics happened. Well, here is the reason why behind that, something dropped, something increased even. So, hey, good news, something really went well. People sometimes don't know why. So this gives them the ability also to find patterns that you want to repeat within a company, which is the complete opposite of some of the stories we're talking about.
Well, let's think about that. If we go back to the telco experience with all those thousands of iPhones, just imagine in a simple tool that actually could look like good news, because all of those phones are being sold and they're being delivered and they're being shipped. So it's like, wow, we're really converting on this new iPhone campaign. But actually, no, you're giving them all the way for free.
And still paying out the bonuses to your executives. Good job done. Yep. So we did some telco examples. We did a travel rental experience example. We did a little e-commerce. Some people are asking about some other use cases in e-commerce that you've seen.
Other use cases. Well, I find that this is a little more than just form entry, like looking at registrations and order capture, payments, things like that. But our product offers you the ability to automatically detect and analyze struggles that other tools may be unable to identify. We could look at inventory issues. So we're basically saying there's no technical errors, but there's a large increase of traffic over the norm to products that have no inventory due to a marketing campaign. Usability. So there's so many types of heads, so many devices, content not properly conforming and causing usability issues. There's probably many more. The bottom line is that our tool is able to capture and monitor the end-to-end transactions that are building the customer experience. The user's struggling, but invisible issues behind the scenes are potentially causing the problem. Most tools in the market miss these hidden gems, which will cost you revenue and hurt the brand experience.
Yeah, I feel for all the merchants out there, because remember the days when everything went to a browser and you can just build a website experience and it works across all the desktops, all the operating systems. We don't have that anymore. There are so many different user experiences based upon your desktop, your mobile, Windows, iOS, Linux, but then you have apps that are running, you have Pinterest shopping, you have the TikTok experiences, the dreams of metaverse, and all these APIs are available in all these different heads, like you were saying. You need to be able to see across all that data experiences and not just looking for error messages. It is much more difficult these days.
Yeah, especially in mobile. I can think of a variety of problems we've helped customers solve where people are trying to buy coffee, and it's not expensive. You're buying bags of coffee, it's $40 an order, something like that, but they'll have it where on just a certain type of device and only on a certain version or only with a certain OS, and they have no idea that they're missing all of these orders. Or maybe people are calling in, but they don't know how to say their OS version and all these other things. And our product already knows all of this information, and it can look and easily build out a chart of where the major failures are for conversion or for checkout.
Beyond just those that called and complained.
Yes.
Yeah, one of my last stories would be working with a lot of merchants. I'll ask the leadership team, like, someone called the call center, they took their precious time and they explained to you they had a problem. And let's say the call center did a great job and they solved it. They got the customer through the process, the registration or the order capture, whatever. I asked the question, how often can the business and or IT team replicate that issue to see if it was a problem that other people had? And no one knows that answer.
Yeah.
Usually the conversation breaks down to if the call center rep actually logged an issue. then if IT eventually sees it in the priority, there's not enough data to replicate it. It's completely blind, right? So I think your example there was maybe we see it automatically, but if someone called and they had that iPhone, or the other 722,000 people that have the same iPhone that all got the same iOS update last night while they were sleeping that affected their browser experience, you just don't know until hundreds of people call and it becomes a priority because your call center got flooded. That's the way people are operating today, mostly that I see. So changing that business experience and the relationship between business and IT, where you're actually on top of it and are able to replicate and give IT or the business, because sometimes it's, like you said, misconfiguration of a promotion code. Your content for that marketing campaign, someone made a mistake and it was the really heavy image and it just slowed down the page. You know, those are things that it all still functions, but you didn't know why the conversion rate went down.
Yeah, so that is something with the amount of data. One, proactively building a solution, using a solution like this so that it can try to prevent them going to the call center, but inevitably something may make it through. And when that happens, even if your call center has access to a tool with session replay and such, that's kind of okay. They called in, I'm looking at the problem, maybe you're co-browsing even, right? You're trying to figure it out, but it doesn't have a lot of that underlying data. So that's what I also like too, is the fix part of Find and Fix, where you're able to go in, escalate these calls, and basically have the IT team now come in and basically look at underlying API calls, network traffic, headers. We're getting technical, but this is a lot of stuff that the majority of the competitors out there, they just cannot provide that level. So that allows you to jump in instead of saying, wow, hundreds of people are seeing this and I can show it to you over and over again. And now the dev teams need to go and study this. Heck, they might come back, I can't simulate it. You know, you go into this loop and it takes a long time. They can drive into a lot of our sessions and immediately identify the problem and build something to fix it.
Excellent. Wonderful, Preston. I got to tell you, every time I have the opportunity to speak with you, I always learn a few things. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your time. And thank you, everybody, for sharing your time with us and listening. We didn't get to all the questions, so we will follow up with you on answers to those. Thank you for your participation, and hope you learned something as well. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.